Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast, and we are 1 week into the off-season. 3 days, 2 days, 4 days, doesn't matter how you want to look at it. Cody Delmendo, Corey Freedman, Ryan Herrera, and I am Luke Stuckmeyer, a.k.a. Host Prime from now on, please.
Host Prime?
Sure. Yeah. Dion, no, I was going to start wearing all white, everything
Grandpa
white.
Prime.
You wear sunglasses.
White hoodies, sunglasses to every show. Cody is not liking it at all. Look at the anger he has down there at me suggesting I could be called Host Prime.
Host Prime.
You know,
Maverick, you want me to stick with Maverick?
We give you a lot, my friend. I can't give you that. I'm sorry. I
Listen,
give you.
Luke,
I somehow, some way gave you credit for predicting 83 wins, even though it should have never.
I said it, 83.
I don't care. It should have never happened. It's the Cubs' fault, obviously. And
credit for being right.
I gave you credit for that. I cannot go as far as saying that you are prime.
Shane tells us this is day 4 of the offseason.
As the leader of Stuckey Nation, or one of the leaders, I would say that when Cody is a multi-time Emmy winner, he can call himself whatever he wants.
Fair. Okay. Credit to Corey. Credit to Corey.
And Joey's running the ones.
I'm still not going to do it.
He's still not going to do it. Well, you don't have to until I start breaking out the white sweatshirts and the white hat and the shades.
If you get the shades,
and
the shades have to be gold. If you show up here in a white hoodie, a white Nike hoodie with gold sunglasses from Shady Rays,
yeah,
and what else?
I am thinking about it for a Halloween costume because kids will get dressed up. I'm thinking a gold S hanging from a chain, all white hoodie, all white hat. Maybe just put the word prime across.
Actually, now you changed my mind. I'm in.
What's the gold S
You
for?
do
Stuckey?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you do that,
Yeah.
I'm asking you to come to this place to where we.
And
all our
maybe I
jobs
would wear my
and wear
Jordans.
that.
Maybe I break out the
Ooh.
original Jordans just for that. All white. I got to buy white joggers too, right?
Okay.
Anyways, we're talking about Cubs baseball. They're not in the postseason, but you know what? Neither are the Brewers.
That's
you
a
hate
real
to see
shame.
it.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
See you later, baby. So all sweeps in that opening round, and a couple of things I thought we'd talk about. We'll talk about the off-season games that we've seen so far. Talk about how the Cubs can get there, and at the end, we're going to play a little game of pass-fail, aced it. I'll explain later. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Best way to enjoy the CHGO experience is to subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page so you don't miss any episodes. Make sure you give thumbs ups and likes and positive reviews and all those things. We would appreciate that. So all sweeps. The Brewers were the only division champion wiped out in 2 straight games. Done. They're gone. It's like they didn't even exist in the postseason. So much for that. And they earned that division title, right? We can't say that. They did earn it, but just as quickly as they earned it, they lost it.
All 4 of us have as many playoff wins as the Milwaukee Brewers in 2023. Credit to us.
So do the Cubs.
And the Cubs, yeah. But more importantly, us 4, we have as many playoff wins as the Brewers this year.
But it should show you that this division, the Cardinals were garbage. The Reds and Pirates were exactly who you thought they were. The Reds are a little bit better. The Pirates are who you thought they were. And frankly, so are the Cubs. But next year, it should be the Cubs division, period. It's a winnable division. The Brewers roll over in the postseason every year. They're not a serious playoff team.
So I was thinking about this morning. Last night I hate watched and hate tweeted about the Milwaukee Brewers, and it was the only thing that made me feel something over the last 2 weeks. Today I'm back into my morning stage because what you just said, Luke, is exactly right. It's like it makes me even more mad that the Cubs they literally shit their pants on the way to the end of the year. That is essentially what happened. And I don't know if they would have beat Milwaukee in 2-game sweep, but all I know is that it probably would have been an entertaining series, and I'd feel better about the season if they just got to play in those games, because at least we could have said that they made the playoffs.
Yeah, I will say that game 1, Diamondbacks bullpen shut the Brewers down. I don't know if the Cubs bullpen could have done that same thing. We saw how just done they kind of were the last few weeks of the season. The Cubs bullpen, Diamondbacks bullpen was great in that game. I don't know that I could say the Cubs would have been able to do the same thing had
you guys didn't want to see
I don't
Jose
know.
Quaz
I don't know if
pitching
they
in the
beat
wild card
Milwaukee.
round?
I'm just saying, like, if they could have just got a chance to play him, anything happens. The Brewers led in both those games by not just one but multiple runs, and the Diamondbacks offense pulled them back into it and took the lead. And yeah, game one, a lot of credit goes to Diamondbacks bullpen. Game two, Zach Gallen did exactly what he is. He shoved it down their throats, even though he struggled in the first inning or so. But he still managed to give them 6 strong. And then, the Brewers they did exactly what I've always thought they'd do. They have the pitching. Everyone, like all the national media that were high on the Brewers going this postseason, the pitching, the starting rotation. Yeah, but their offense stinks, bro. It's Christian Yelich and William Contreras and then a bunch of other dudes. That's what it is. That's what it's always been. And it just makes me so annoyed that the Cubs, they did this to themselves, man. So, yeah, it's awesome to see that Milwaukee sucked and got embarrassed on national television again. But it doesn't make me feel any better about the Cubs.
Yeah, I think like the two takeaways from what was ultimately a very quick wild card round. Kind of bummed about that. I like the wild card round, but I think the takeaway, one, like you should. The Cubs need to aim to be the best team in this division, right? Like, it's one thing if you have an organization that has operated as well and just hit on so many moves like the Braves, and you're staring up at them, or even in the NL West, those teams staring up at the Dodgers. It's not that those teams shouldn't aspire to be better than them or beat them, but it's a tough task. They have a ton of money. They're at the top of the league in terms of player development and, the paradigms of like how front office is office. It's a tough task, right, to get to that level. But the Cubs have more money than all of these teams, and they are not looking up at a top-tier elite organization. The Brewers are very good at working with what they have, right? But what they have is less than the Cubs. And so you just look around, the Cardinals, people expected them to be good, and they were terrible. Like, you have got to be in a position, as we've all said, next year to take advantage of a weak division relative to the rest of your league, right? You would much rather be in the NL Central than the NL East or the NL West at this point. And at some point, as a top organization in this league, which the Cubs need to get back to being, you have to take advantage of that. The other takeaway that I had from watching this is, especially in light of the Brewers winning the division and getting knocked out, again, tough task, but you have to find a way to be a top 2 team in the league. Mm-hmm. Winning that division and being the 3rd seed is really not much of an advantage. You just saw it. The Brewers' advantage was that they got to play the Diamondbacks for 3 games at home. They only played 2 games, and they got knocked out. Having your season ride on 2 games is really tough after you go 162 and win the division. So with where the Braves are and where the Dodgers always are, the Cubs have a tough task. The Phillies are also very good, right? Like, you have got to find a way to win your division and dominate a weaker division, but somehow end up in those top 2 seeds, because this new wild card round, obviously when they were playing 1 game, it's even more of a gauntlet. But like, this is a gauntlet, and anything can happen in 2 games.
When you're playing a 5-game series after that, it's still tough too, right? A lot of people think the Phillies might be able to take advantage of the Braves because the Braves have been sitting around, right? They play 1 game, then they got to have another day off. Then they play a game, could be the way the schedule sets up. So they've had a lot of time sitting around. But to Corey's point, you can't lose if you're not playing. Yeah. So at least you're through that first round without being knocked out in that first round like the Brewers and some of the other teams that are just like the Blue Jays haven't been able to do it. But here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried as a Cubs fan that the Cubs won't see the priority or this is it. This is where you got to grab this is the offseason to grab it. Dansby was the nice move, but this is the one to grab the division, take hold of it, and as Ryan Poles said, take the North back, and we're never giving it back. That's what the Cubs need to do. You're looking at teams like the Diamondbacks, who lost 110 games 2 years ago, move on in the postseason.
Yeah.
Okay? Multiple teams that lost 100 games 2 years ago are moving on. I don't want that to be the St. Louis Cardinals in another year. So you better take hold of this division before the Cardinals figure out what's going on with them. They're a train wreck. They're a dumpster fire right now. But we can all say, we all know the Cardinals aren't dead for good.
Yeah. No, definitely not.
So
that's
this
why I embraced hating them all.
This
as much
is
as I
the
did all year.
off season while they're down to put your foot on the Cardinals for a while. Take advantage of free agency, make some good trades, develop your guys. But this is the one where you have to take the
I'm curious
the
because we
division.
hear so much, and I know, Ryan, you were there with Jed the other day, and just listening to all of them, like, we'll see what they do. And I never try to read too much into that stuff because they don't like to say stuff that puts them at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
People freaking out that Tom didn't say, yes, we're going to go over the luxury tax. Like, why would he say that? Like, why would he put that out in the media for anybody to know, for Scott Boras to know, or for any?
'Cause we wanna
They don't
know.
need to say that, So I try not to parse that stuff too much, but I do think that we did hear a lot about building a sustained winner, right? And that's been the discussion and the goal for some time now. And I think that you hope that those seasons are in there, right? Like 2016, where you are a 103-win juggernaut kind of team. But I feel like when I hear those answers, I don't know that they have the same urgency that we do for like next year to be the be-all, end-all, right? I think they're looking at it with like, how do we get like 2024 to, I'm making up a year, like 2028 to be good opportunities to win from that period, right, with a certain group of players rather than right now.
They've already said it, Corey.
Right.
Jed Hoyer said we can't be the Braves next year.
That's, yeah.
I don't disagree with it, but, man, try.
Yeah.
But you look at those organizations. Look at the Dodgers, the Astros, the Braves, how many divisions they've won in a row.
A lot.
They have guys coming up every year. They've got prospects coming up making a difference, pitchers coming up making a difference, guys you've never heard of, not necessarily all blue-chip guys, but, like, they're not wrong for saying that, it's not going to be a one-year thing. And ultimately, we saw that, they got lightning in a bottle in 2015 and 2016. Obviously, 2017, they went back to the NLCS. But they leveraged a lot of that with the farm system. And you ultimately saw they flamed out pretty quickly. So, that is ultimately where I'm looking and why I'm still optimistic because of the strides that they showed this year and some of the guys that they were able to, develop. And so that's where I'm, hopeful that they're going to continue to make strides in that because, like Corey said, they have as much resources as you could ever want, as much prestige, money, fan interest. And so there's no reason that they can't accomplish that, especially looping it all back. The division is there for the taking.
Yeah.
To finish, like on that thought, like I'm fine with that, right? Like if they are trying to build a sustained winner, that is ultimately the goal. I think to your point though, Stuckey, it is, I don't want to say frustrating, but like you do sort of see this like silver platter in terms of the division and what you should be able to do with it. The question obviously of this offseason is, does that timeline align with the moves they can make and where this system is to make it next year? But I think the ultimate goal is correct.
Yeah, and when you mention the division, like the Cardinals they have a lot of work to do this offseason if they're even going to get back to like any kind of contention. The Pirates and the Reds are coming up. They got some good prospects that have been debuting the last year or two, but they're still kind of working their way back up the ladder. And like the Brewers, Craig Counsell leaving would be a pretty big, if he does leave, would be a pretty big loss for them as far as the manager goes. And like Corbin Burns is already in trade rumors again. He's got 1 year left of arbitration, and you don't really know if that entire core is going to stay intact in Milwaukee. So it's like, yeah, and the Cubs, they won 9 more games this year than last year. I mean, without considering the collapse in September and missing the playoffs, they did still take a step forward this season, maybe a few steps forward this season in terms of developing some of their guys, getting production out of like Dansby coming in and being this veteran leader, Gold Glove defender. So they have taken steps this season, even though it didn't end the way anyone wanted it to. It's like the division is not, there's no clear front runner in the division, even though Milwaukee won it again. Like they could be taking a step back themselves, depending on how things look for them in 2024. So, like, the Cubs for sure, as we talked about the other day, like, I don't know that they're going to just throw as much money as possible and, like, fix it in one offseason. It's kind of what Jed said. Like, it takes time to get to where they want to go. They can't really fix everything in one offseason. But I do envision them. I think they see that the division is winnable. And it was winnable this year. Honestly, it was winnable last year. Like, if they had a better team, I know they were in like still in the beginning stages of the rebuild, but like even last year, the division was still winnable, just like in general. So I think they recognize that, and I think even if they won't go completely 100% all in and go just blow past the luxury tax threshold, I do think bringing in, whether it's free agents or trades or whatever, like they recognize how much that can help the Cubs really be a player in the division next year. They were in it. They were what, 1.5 games back of Milwaukee after that Giants sweep. Like, they were in September still in play for the division crown. So even with Milwaukee winning 92 games or whatever it is, the Cubs were right there too for most of the season. So I think, again, I think they recognize that, and I think they will make the moves they see fit to help this team try to win a division next year, because that should be the goal, right? Not just making the playoffs,
yes,
winning the division in a division where, as you guys have all said, you are the team with by far the most resources, the money, all that kind of stuff. Like, this is a division that the Cubs can, as they move further from that, the tear down and into the next stage, they should be playing for division crowns every year.
Brewers lose maybe their manager. They lost their GM. They're not that good. It's an opportunity is what I'm saying. The opportunity is there. And I know what Jed is saying, like, you can't fix it in one offseason because there were so many holes. I mean, that was even more true going into last offseason. But this Diamondbacks team lost 110 games 2 years ago. Yeah. They look like the real deal. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Dodgers. I wouldn't. No. Would you be stunned if Arizona somehow surprised the Dodgers?
No.
I would not. So how were they able to turn it around in 2 years, and the Chicago Cubs cannot turn it around in 2 years?
Well, because they were
close, but yeah.
Because they were so bad for multiple years, they were able to get higher draft picks. But I also think that their coaching staff, I've read a little bit about them. Like, I feel like they're kind of looked at as kind of how we kind of look at guys like Tommy Hotovy, for example. Mm-hmm. As far as their pitching. I mean, we were just talking about their bullpen and how it saved them in Game 1. Like, the pitching that they have, that they've developed, they made great trades. I mean, the Zach Gallen trade with Miami, they sent Jazz Chisholm and got Gallen. Both teams got success from that trade. Good for them. But I think that they were able to develop really good pitching, and then on top of it, Corbin Carroll wasn't even a top 5 pick, but he developed into the best prospect in baseball. He's going to win Rookie of the Year this year. Alec Thomas debuted last year. Hit a home run yesterday. He's good. Ketel Marte, he was already there. Like, he's been a very good player for a while. Like, they were really good at developing from within. And organizations like the Diamondbacks, they have to do that.
They have to.
And so that's what Corey was saying, kind of like what Joey was saying when it comes to what the advantages the Cubs have. Like, the Cubs, yes, it's taken a little bit of time, and the reason that it's taken more time is because they didn't make – they ran it back like 3 straight years after 2018, basically, instead of, like, trying to shake things up, and that set them back. And that's why, yes, Luke, it's taken longer for the Cubs to get back to this, even though they didn't lose 100 games in any of those seasons. But if they had shaken things up a little bit earlier, perhaps, and replenished their farm system, perhaps they wouldn't have had to, maybe the Cubs would have been in better position this year. But I will say, going forward, with where the farm system ranks now, in the top 5 on many, many different, like, ranking systems out there, as long as they're able to, and it's very hard to do, as long as they're able to continue to develop, whether they trade some of the guys that they have, because they're going to have to. They have so many outfielders, and their entire outfield outside of center field is, like, locked up. As long as they're able to continue to develop after they move some of those guys, then yes, there can be sustained success with this organization, and we won't be talking about bad contracts that set this team back. what did we always say that how the golden era ended? Basically, because a lot of they were unable to develop homegrown pitching and even position players too. So to me, it really does start with organizationally on the farm. Like if they're able to continue to develop and then use those resources, aka Tom Ricketts' bank account, then yeah, you can have sustained success as long as they continue to develop. And they've taken huge strides. I mean, again, the pitching that we saw this year, and it's not even the best pitchers that we feel like we're going to see. They took massive steps this year, and this is like all I'm holding on to for this entire offseason. This is what I'll be holding on to this entire offseason. Is the pitching took a huge step organizationally and on the major league team this year. You got it. Like it's got to continue. They got to continue to do that, and obviously continue to draft well. So, again, yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I agree with Jed. It can't take 1 year to get at the level of the Braves because it's not like the Braves are going out and spending dumb money on guys. They made great trades.
Yeah.
Why were the Cubs not in on Sean Murphy?
They make great trades and lock up their own guys.
Yeah, they extend like every player they have. But again, they make great trades. They got Matt Olson. They traded for Sean Murphy. Like they do it all on top of, when they need to make a signing, they'll make a signing. You know what I mean? But so I'm not even asking the Cubs to go and be like Steve Cohen and pay all this money for whoever.
I'd be down for it though.
I mean, I'll talk myself into it, no doubt. But I'm saying that you got to get creative. This is the offseason for Jed Hoyer to get creative, especially with all the prospect capital that they have, and the guys that are probably going to be available out there. This is like we're possibly getting a second chance at Juan Soto after not pulling the plug on him a year and a half ago or whatever. And same thing with Pete Alonso, whoever it is. There are guys out there, and the Cubs have the prospect capital to go and make a move like that. I know the Cardinals had a bad year, and I'm always going to shit on them, and I hate that city. But the reason that they are able to make those trades for guys like Arenado and Goldschmidt and some of the other trades that they have is that, first off, they're talking trade with poverty organizations. Sorry, D-backs. But even when they do move decent prospects that they like, they continue to develop guys. They were high on Carson Kelly and Luke Weaver when they made that trade for Goldschmidt, and it just happened that both those guys flamed out, right? But also they were able to develop other guys to add on with the fact that they got Goldschmidt. They still have been able to draft well and continue to develop guys. I know the Cardinals right now might feel like a bad example, but as we all have said here, we know they are not going to lose 90 games next year. They're going to at least be a 500 team next year, if they do what they've been doing my entire life, which is just be super annoying and winning with dudes that you've just never heard of. So,
I think we've seen that just throwing a bunch of money at a bunch of free agents doesn't work. I think we see that like every year. How often it doesn't. I'm gonna say how often it doesn't work out.
The Cubs were a top payroll team in 16. But
it's all about the organizational health. It's all about having, as you said, the good, healthy farm system all the way down to low A, because then that obviously allows you to, backfill the roster with cheaper, good prospect players, or make trades for guys that you could bring into your team, so you're not going out and having to spend a bunch of money on free agents. Like that's what we see with the Dodgers or the Braves or the Cardinals is just the organizational health in the system is always very good, and that allows them to do a bunch of things. Again, the Cubs, the last time around, didn't develop that. They reset, and it looks like they're kind of on their way to being able to do that, where they have guys that you're looking at as like, wow, this guy is pretty good. He might actually be a trade chip for him now, instead of like this guy is going to be the guy they have to bring up to the major league roster to like do whatever, right? Like they have enough good prospects and enough health in that system where they're like, okay, we don't have to keep everyone. We can afford to trade some of these guys to make trades for the big league team, while also being able to keep others that will keep this system healthy. And that's to get to that level of the teams that we've talked about. That's what you need in the system.
I think they're getting there. They're they're piecing everything together, as you guys are saying, and you do want it to be that mix, right, of making smart trades, progressing and developing your own players to contribute, and also spending money. And I think they're getting there. I think to kind of like full circle on the conversation we started with, which is like watching these wild cards, I think like the immediate goal for me, right, is you have finished outside of 2020, which you can think of that shortened season however you want. I don't really care about it, or it's obviously an anomaly, right? You have got to be the best team in this division, and at minimum, you have to start being better than the Brewers. It's been like 5 years since you were better than the Brewers. 1 year, they took the division from you, right? Like, outside of 2020, you have been behind them. That has got to stop. You're on the right track. You're moving forward. But I think what this year does in terms of expectations, you got the winning year. You're making progress, all that stuff. And as they all said, even with that, it's not a success because they didn't make the playoffs, right? But, like, 2024 has got to be the year that the Cubs stop falling behind a team like the Milwaukee Brewers. They've had their time. They've had their run. They're a well-run organization. But a lot of those pieces are leaving, and you're on the come up. You have to, like, pay that off eventually and start acting like the best team in this division, which is where you need to be.
The Diamondbacks and Orioles did it by being bad for a while and getting the draft picks. The Rangers have done it by throwing big money at it. It didn't work the first year. It has worked now. All three of those have gone from over 100 losses 2 years ago to still in the postseason right now. 3 teams that lost that many games. So I'd like to see the hybrid. Spend a little bit like the Rangers, smartly, but spend big money in the offseason. And yes, obviously, like Ryan's saying, the best way for any organization to be good for a long period of time is draft well and develop those players. Yep. That still has to happen too. But the bonus of being the Chicago Cubs and playing in Wrigley Field and being, quote-unquote, America's team, like we want to be, is you got big bucks.
Yeah, that's not
having marquee network. You got wheelbarrows of cash.
Yeah.
So until that sustained success of drafting well and developing your prospects gets there, feel free to go ahead and throw some of that dough down that has redeveloped all of Wrigleyville now and make this team the division champ next year, period. Like, shouldn't be the Brewers anymore. That's the only way I look at it.
I do think that the division will be better next year. Like, just looking ahead, I do think the Cardinals will be better, and I know they're the Reds and I know they're the Pirates, but those teams are like the Orioles and the Diamondbacks. Like, they're poverty organizations that don't spend money, but they have tanked enough and been bad enough to where they have one of the top prospect systems in baseball too. Like, if they actually did spend some sort of money, they would start to scare me based off the guys that. I mean, the Reds. I think at the beginning of the year, we all thought the Reds were going to be in last, and they're going to finish in third this year. And they're like, I'm sure the Reds fans were disappointed in how the season ended, but they have to feel great about going into next year when they get more the other guys coming up on top of maybe, just maybe, they'll sign a few veterans that can help groom a young team together. So, like, that's what I'm getting at with this, is that the Cubs, they have to use the one thing that they have over everyone else in this division, as in the resources, as in the money. And again, that doesn't mean go and spend stupid Steve Cohen money, but like we've been talking about, like we talked about yesterday, you got to bring Cody Bellinger back. And when you do that, you also got to add another power bat. So if that's Pete Alonso or Juan Soto, you got the prospect capital to where you can make a trade for that and still be okay on the farm. That's, to me, it's Cody Bellinger, one of those two other guys that I said. If it's not those two, then Shohei Ohtani has to be an option as well. Like, that, to me, that is what the Cubs need to be doing this offseason. Like what Corey just said, like, it is time for this organization to be at the top of the division and act like the big market team that they are. So that is my expectation for the offseason. That's what it should be for every Cubs fan. Because, again, they've been building the last few years. Now it's time to take the next step. Not like, this is the time to spend money, man. Real money, not like 5-year, $85 million contract to Seiya Suzuki, and we hope that he turns into this great guy. He's been a very good player. Go spend real money on a guy who has been doing it here in America whatever, that has cemented himself as one of the best players in the league.
De La Cruz says, time to do some biblical spending.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking
Amen
about.
to that. Can I get an amen? Amen. All right, Cody, tell us about our friends at Circa Sportsbook, because
Oh, boy.
exciting week here in Illinois.
Yeah, so Circa came to Illinois starting this week. We had a great event over at Old Crow in Wrigleyville with the Circa people the other day. Great swag. But the thing about Circa that I love the most, Luke, is that they don't limit people. You know, like on some of the other sports books, if you get on a hot streak, like I'm going on a good 1 or 2 week hot stretch, and on other books, and then they start to limit me. They don't give me those no sweat Wednesday bets on some of the books. You know what I mean? Because I've been winning too much. So
Too much of a heater.
Yeah, too much of a heater. They're like, oh, he's been winning too much. We can't give him any more free bets.
They'll
Circa's
heat him.
not going to do that. They treat everyone the same. They're as equal is. All right, that's one of the reasons why I love Circa. And their customer service is great. They're real people behind the brand who resolve issues in a timeline fashion, unlike other books that use chat bots, for example. And they just have some of the best odds for sports books too. If you like to compare, shop around, or whatever, I feel like Circa has the best. So, and on top of it, if you go out to Vegas to their casino and resort, it is incredible.
Now look at
So-
my phone. Now it's giving me all kinds of weird
cancel.
stuff.
Luke, when you go out to Vegas, you can go to Circa Swim and just have yourself a time while you watch that video you're watching on your phone right now. Download the Circa Sports Illinois Download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. Sign up today. Also, be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyoureallywinning.com.
Very nicely done.
Yeah, I love Circa.
Almost as much as Corey
I
loves
was going to
Sunnyside.
say, and I love Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your football season. As I always say, whether you are just starting your cannabis journey or you are an experienced user, the Sunnyside staff is very knowledgeable, friendly. I visit the location in Wrigleyville, just down the street from beautiful historic Wrigley Field on Clark Street. Staff is wonderful. The building is new and nice. You can place your order,
Beautiful
easy
facilities.
online ordering, and it is ready within seconds for in-store pickup. They also have a great transparent loyalty program, Sunnyside Rewards. You can shop their house of brands like Mindy's, the best tasting gummy and chocolate edibles created by James Beard award-winning chef Mindy Siegel and Cresco Labs, or Good News. They've got gummies, rechargeable vape pens, and carts, perfect for great moments with the crew.
Or High
And
Supply. Throw out the High Supply.
they're all
there, Corey.
great, yes.
Throw
High
High
Supply is great
It's a
as
fun
well.
fan.
Cresco is great. That is the Sunnyside House of Brands. Me and Joey. You can catch us at the Wrigleyville Sunnyside, but it is Illinois' cannabis dispensary, so find your preferred location. It is also a Sunnyside Thursday, which means we get to decide who made us feel good in Chicago sports this week, as Sunnyside makes us feel good and sets the vibes for the weekend. And in honor of my brother, who might be listening to this, I never thought I would say this on a Chicago sports podcast. My brother is a diehard Anaheim Ducks fan. And you know who made Chicago sports fans feel good this week? Corey Perry.
Wow.
Words I bet nobody
Yeah,
thought
Never, ever.
you would hear on a Chicago sports podcast. But Corey Perry scored 2 goals the other night, had beautiful chemistry with Connor Bedard. The easy answer is Connor Bedard, but I'm switching it up and going Corey Perry. Sorry, Jason, out in beautiful California. But he is who made us feel good this week. And, of course, our Blackhawks crew, our wonderful Blackhawks crew, will have post-game after their preseason game tonight, where Corey Perry and Connor Bedard might do more magic together. But that is our Sunnyside Thursday Player of the Week. And through October 15th, head to sunnyside.shop. Use code CHGO25 at checkout for 25% off your total order. One use per customer, not stackable with other promotions. That is not only for new customers. Anyone can use our code. Pick up everything you need to elevate your football season. Must be 21 or older or a Illinois Med card holder.
What about Alex Thomas?
Yeah, Alec Thomas. Yeah,
Alec
he did
Alec
make
Thomas.
me feel good.
Alex.
We'll also shout out the PHNX crew
Yeah.
for taking out the evil Milwaukee Brewers.
As we
too.
call them, CHGO West.
Right, CHGO West.
Yeah.
Well, and then what? Like CHGO Rocky Mountain is DNVR or what?
CHGO East is Philly, yeah.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
CHGO Mountain. We call them CHGO Mountain Time.
I was joking with Cody, though. Like, honestly, I hate watching the playoffs. I have a lot of enemies in the playoffs.
Same.
The Diamondbacks took care of our main enemy. Pretty much I was watching these playoffs like anyone but the Brewers. I have other teams I don't like, but can't have that, right? I would like to be watching the Chicago Cubs in the playoffs. Hate watching is fun. I was, cackling like Cody at some of the stuff, in these Brewers Diamondbacks games. But, again, there is a feeling of like, this is not what we should be doing. It's funny to laugh at them, but they were in there and we're sitting here, So, yes, they all won the same amount of playoff games. Like, they played 2 extra games than the Cubs, yada, yada, yada. But enough, right? Like, it's fun. I can laugh at it. But 2024, I want to be watching the Cubs in the playoffs.
Yeah. Now, it's not really hate watching now because the Cardinals and the Brewers aren't involved. But I kind of want to see the Braves fall, and I'm going to make a montage joke every time I can during this Phillies-Braves series. And I, kind of like what Luke said yesterday, I kind of want to see Schwartz do well. I got
to be honest
a video
with you.
of him celebrating. It hurts.
Yeah.
Those vibes, the Phillies have crafted somehow the most Philadelphia team they possibly could.
Yeah.
And
blue collar.
And they're just slamming beers in there. They're ready to party. I love it. It's amazing. Sometimes the team matches the city so well. It feels like you're watching an episode of Always Sunny when they're in the clubhouse.
Right.
You're
Just waiting for Frank to come out as the GM.
This fits so well. I do want to answer Garrett's question because I see it. No, Craig Breslow did not officially leave. That rumor has not been followed up on, and
there was one rumor saying
Peter
that it
Damons.
was possible, and then
I believe Sahadev from The Athletic said
there was no contact.
So something to monitor, right? Sure. I think his family still lives in Boston, and if there's an opening, maybe he would do it. But as far as officially, no.
No, there's no official word on that yet.
I still stand on the Diamondbacks being the team that I guess I'm rooting for, but I guess I'm on board to see PHLY have
I also
some
honestly
success.
I wanted the Rays out. I have no ill will toward them, but that showing in the playoffs, and I know there's nuance to that. It's not in a good location, and
You talking about the fan
Yeah,
showing, or
I
less
don't care,
than
man.
40,000 people combined in 2 games?
It's a bad stadium.
Move
I
the
think it's in a
franchise.
bad location, but I'm like, this is not
Move
good
'em.
for the game of baseball, man. They kept showing they would pan up and it was empty. I'm like, this isn't good.
Give the team to Charlotte.
You have these other electric
Nashville.
atmospheres. Our
Sox
boss
are going
Brandon
there.
was at the Phillies game at Citizens Bank last night. In some of the videos he was posting, it's electric. We know Wrigley Field would be electric. That's what you want. It's good for the game, and that just looked awful. So I was glad the Rangers won.
I know they're getting a new ballpark, but the Rays would be perfect in Arlington Heights when the Bears back out.
You want 3 teams?
No, the White Sox go to Nashville.
Okay. Overall, I guess I don't really care who wins now. I'm just glad Milwaukee's out. So, but man, the video we posted today, or that I posted, of Schwarber, just pounding the beers or whatever, and they singing the song,
yeah, but he was very Chicago too.
yeah,
Sure.
I'm just so the
That's the
more
thing, he
and more
fits
I
in.
think about it, he's
like a chameleon. He can match the vibe.
yeah.
He can vibe with anything.
He's the one that hurts out of that group.
He's the one. I always thought that Rizzo was going to be the one that hurts the most. And I love Anthony Rizzo dearly in the most fan way I possibly can. But man, we just sat here and we talk about we need left-handed power, man. God.
It was that they got nothing.
You
Also, that they
not
got
tendered
and
the guy.
I gotta say, I
Nothing
would
for him.
enjoy Rizzo before he got the concussion was
was having
really
a
good
great
for the
year.
Yankees. That one hurt a lot, but I would love, because we have these conversations, and I'm not comparing them actually, but we have these conversations in our YouTube chat like every game about Patrick Wisdom. Like Schwarber is the most extreme of that kind of player. He
Yeah.
hits 190, but he hits 55 home runs or whatever it is, right? The conversations about him would be a lot of fun because some people just can't get over the average, right? But he's producing. That would be kind of
And
funny.
the Phillies like lead him off every game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that Joe Madden tried to do, and I think he gave it like 3 months, and then they finally stopped doing it. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, that the year that he did that, I think that was what 2017. The Cubs went to NLCS that year anyway. But
Yeah. I also think with Schwarber, like, he's talked pretty openly about, like, that getting non-tendered was a pretty big wake-up call for him because he did have a – I mean, 2020
Yeah.
was a weird year anyway, so you don't want to base a whole career off one year. But, like, it was a pretty bad year for him.
it was.
And he's talked about, like, how, not getting a contract after that. Although part of that was obviously the financial stuff in the Cubs with the whole pandemic. But, like, him talking about, like, how – the wake-up call that he got, like how that kind of added some perspective on his own career and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, who knows if they
Sometimes
do,
players need that
right?
stuff.
Like, who knows
Yeah.
if they do tender him the contract if he puts up the numbers that he has the past few years. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, whatever. But, like, for him, I think at least what he's said publicly is like that was like the start of him trying to, like, realizing he needs to turn his career around. So,
Yeah, I just.
I know it's painful. I like to see what he's doing now for Cubs fans. Like, I completely understand that.
He's in the
but, like,
postseason every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, I completely,
Every year you see him shaking up the champagne.
And he
Well, that's what I'm
shows,
saying, like, I
he
understand
shows
why-
up in October.
I understand why
every
Cubs
time,
fans
man.
like they take pain in that because it was a core player from the World Series champions that's doing it for someone else.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know how his career looks if he's still with the Cubs right now, honestly.
But you wanted him to be the guy that was always thought of as a Cub.
Yeah.
Because he started as a Cub. They drafted him. They got him to the World Series. He showed up like some superhero in the World Series to play. They win the World Series.
Yeah.
He's a Chicago-type guy, right? Went to Indiana. And
Midwest guy.
and now he's all over the place.
Yeah.
Midwest, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's one thing. Like, I'll root for the Diamondbacks over the Phillies because, like, I want Schwarber to have success, but I always want people to remember the one World Series he got was with the Cubs. So,
What year was that, Cody?
2016.
Oh,
2016.
Never forget.
that's cool.
People forget, though. So
I
that's why
I
said
do
it.
also think, like, just thinking about these playoff teams and especially thinking about the Phillies and what they've done with, like Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, like, this is like the least novel observation when you're watching the baseball playoffs, but, like, pitching. You need pitching.
Yeah.
And I think the Cubs have a really solid, like, group in that rotation. And I've seen it discussed a lot. Like, if Stroh picks up that option, if they do intend to keep Kyle Hendricks, like they've said, not a lot of room, and there's not a lot of money to fill all this stuff. Like, I don't know if I'm sold on that group being. I think they're good enough to compete and win the division, but to
Not do anything,
truly excel in the
right.
playoffs, especially if you have to get through this short round.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you need another top of the rotation guy, or you had really better hope that Marcus Stroman is all-star Marcus Stroman start to finish.
Yeah,
which
Does he have a no trade clause?
No.
I don't believe so. But I was under the same impression. Like if they can't add to this rotation, I don't know, especially in a 3-game, best 2 out of 3 series. Like, do they have the high-end starting pitching to get through a quick series like that? I think Justin Steele, if he pitches like Justin Steele did in 2023, if he could do that next year, like, you believe in that? But yeah, Stroman is like, if he does opt in, like, that's the X factor. If there's no other additions to the rotation, like, he has to be first half Marcus Stroman,
right.
for them to, like, especially if they have to play that wild card round, like, he has to be that guy for him because I think they obviously trust Kyle Hendricks and he was effective, But if it's like a game 2 or game 3 wild card, like he's not 16, 17 Kyle Hendricks anymore.
Right.
Like he is past his prime. Not that they can't trust him to produce in the big moments, but it's like you do want just a higher end starting pitching in those types of games.
And like you look at yesterday, and some of these teams put up some a couple of the Rangers and Phillies scored 7 runs, but the 4 teams that lost and ended up getting eliminated on Wednesday, none of them scored more than 2 runs. 1 run, 2 runs, 2 runs, 1 run. Like, you got to shut teams down in the playoffs. And we know the Cubs don't have the bullpen right now. They've got work to do there. They're going to have to promote some guys, bring in some free agents, trade for guys, etc. We know that. But, looking at the rotation, I feel like you would want one more, like, top-tier guy. And we'll see what happens next year. Obviously, we don't know what progress or what role guys like Ben Brown or Cade Horton, who's flying through the ranks, like, where they're going to fit in and things like that. But, yeah, that's, I think, one of the key starts for this offseason is looking at their comments on Kyle Hendricks, who I think they should keep. Like, I would like him around. He was very good, and he's, one of the last – he is the last standing from the 2016 Cubs that won the World Series. But
Jamer Candelario.
right.
Free agent.
But, like, like if Stroh opts in, like, you've got a decent amount of space and money crept up in that, and what they decide, where Jordan Wicks is fitting in, what role Javier Assad is playing, like, in all of this. Jamison Tyone obviously showing signs over the end of the year, and that's also another one that we can't really answer, right? Like
where's he gonna
as
be
he's
next
talked
year?
about, I mean, he could be a totally different pitcher. There's a lot of adjustments that he just couldn't
You might
make.
actually you might finally look like the Cy Young guy we were hoping for this year.
And like maybe that would
You bet
change
on
things,
that
right?
I stupidly bet on, yes.
That's
Good me to admit.
that
Good
is one of
odds.
those things that stands out
We're
when you
good
watch
odds.
these games. Like, you need the pitching and you need to be able to play close games and shut teams down, because that's the best way to win in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Stroman, according to Spotrac, no trade clause.
No trade clause. So he could opt in, and you still could trade him.
Yeah.
And you could probably still get decent value for him because he is a starting pitcher who has had success throughout his career.
And it's only a
For sure.
1-year deal, so it's
And
not
a
like
one-year deal.
teams are taking on like a bunch of long-term money for him.
I don't like the idea of getting rid of good pitchers unless you're able to replace him with a good pitcher that's a different style of pitcher, right? Like if you get a guy that's more strikeout friendly, then okay, move things around a little bit. Move the chess pieces.
It's kind of frustrating in my head because like I think as far as most fans or just on the show, I feel like I've supported Stroman more than most people, even in the second half when things didn't go well, because I know how good he can be when things are going good for him. I just think it's with the type of rotation the Cubs have. Like, if you have a Kyle Hendricks and a Justin Steele and Jordan Wicks, and with Stroman, it's just like there just isn't a lot of strikeouts, man. And that, to me, that's what this rotation needs to be better at next year. They need more strikeouts. And so I do think that if he does opt in, I think it would be smart for the Cubs to move him. And it doesn't even have to be for like a guy who can play now, but like maybe a prospect on the way or whatever. Because I think if they did trade him, then they really would go find a pitcher that can give more strikeouts.
Well, and we know that Jed was in Japan watching Yamamoto pitch. Like, is that a route they explore? I don't know, but obviously, like, you look at Kodai Senga, who came over for the Mets, had a really, really nice year.
Yeah.
And that's in a year where he's still sort of figuring things out, but that ghost forkball that he throws is one of the nastiest pitches in baseball.
He was getting
so,
late season,
Wasn't
like
his-
Cy Young.
yeah.
His ERA, I believe, was one spot ahead of Justin Steele when
By
it
the
all
end of the
finished
year.
up by the end of the
so
year.
like, and like, is he the answer? I don't know, but well, and to answer Eddie's question, you need more strikeouts because, as we saw, this pitching staff did not get enough swing and miss. Baseball is a game where if you put the ball in play, things can happen, right? Bad things can't happen.
Guys can hit fly
if they
balls.
strike out.
Yeah.
guys drop
That's
fly
it.
balls, guys throw it over
Guys
the
make
shortstop,
errors,
guys make
things
errors.
like
Blue
that.
hits that make you want to pull your hair out.
It just limits it increases how luck factors into things, right? Or defensive positioning, things like that. BABIP, right? Like it just happens that way. So you need more swing and miss because it limits randomness. They just strike out and go sit down.
Yeah,
you know?
like they built, like by getting Dansby, moving Nico back to second, like with PCA in center field potentially, or if they bring back Cody Bellinger, like they have the defense to like overall like long haul withstand like just having similar pitchers again. But as you said, like it's just if you can eliminate that and like eliminate the risk of an error by putting the ball in play more often than they did this past season, like that's
when
that's
it's especially and you always want more swing and miss, but I think it's especially important if you're still not at that point. We always go back to that Jed quote where he says you need to blow teams out, right?
Yep.
We'll see if they get there with the offense that they build. If you're not, and when you had a bullpen like the Cubs did, if you're playing a lot of close games, the best way to win close games is by nobody putting the ball in play, because that's how bad things happen. You see it all the time. I mean, I think yesterday it was the Twins and Blue Jays game when the Blue Jays were mounting a rally. They changed pitchers. Guy came in first pitch. It was a little bleeder, like the one that broke up the Drew Smyly no-hitter. That's a really good example, right? That's why you need swing and miss, because stupid things like that, it's a 40-mile-per-hour, it's almost a foul ball. There it is. It's a hit, right? Now you've got trouble. So if you're not blowing teams out, the best way to manage that and win close games is by striking guys out, because then it doesn't make walks hurt as much. It doesn't make little balls that find, seeing eye singles, things like that. And the Cubs just didn't have enough of it. You can live with contact pitchers. Kyle Hendricks is a prime example of that. It's not that everybody has to do that. The Cubs just didn't have enough of it.
Yeah.
You need a little variety in your lineup and in your pitching staff as well. You don't need variety when it comes to Shady Rays. You only need Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium solar polarized shades and affordable price. They're great in the fall, but they're even better in the winter when that snow comes and you get the reflection off the white snow. Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product just as good as any expensive pair we've ever worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you buy them. And together with their customers, Shady Rays provides much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and make sure you use the code CHGO. They'll give you 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
When I think of Shady Rays and it's starting to get colder in Chicago now, so I'm thinking of Shady Rays, having my Shady Rays on next to the pool. And when I'm envisioning that, I also have one of the many beers of Goose Island in my hand. Goose Island is the official beer of CHGO, Chicago's beer since 1988. Their beer roster is incredible. Oktoberfest, Beer Hug Family, 312 Wheat Ale, Full Pocket Pills. I did the beer bat yesterday for the first time ever. Completely embarrassed myself. Corey was already talking crap about me. I'm gonna get better, but I did it with a 312, and that's what I'm gonna keep doing it with. Those 312s are amazing. Corey, that's your favorite Goose Island beer?
Absolutely.
So grab ultra fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island Original Brew House on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
I still think that you should do the beer bat once a week in celebration of the softball team.
Which is a possibility.
And for your practice, like you said that you wanted to do.
But don't want to keep practicing on camera. That's keep embarrassing myself. Right?
I did it for an entire season and then got shit on by the entire internet
Well,
whenever. big of me.
I don't think there was any defecating.
It's big of me.
It was big of me to do that. All right, whatever.
But yeah, no.
I just think it would be fun off-season content. That's
Goose
just me.
Island, love Goose Island. I'm a big 312 guy myself. But yeah, they got great beer rosters, so make sure you go and get yourself any of the many great beers that Goose Island offers.
All right, we got 3 minutes left. A quick game of Corey.
The first name that popped in my mind was Seiya Suzuki.
Pass. Very nice.
Yeah.
Ryan?
My passing grade would be Jan Gomes.
Jan Gomes. That's
Good
a good
call.
one.
Yeah.
I'll say Jamison Tyone. It wasn't a fail for me because of the way he finished the season. I'll give him a pass in his first season. My fail, Eric Hosmer.
Oh, we get to pick from those guys?
Pick anything you want. Anything from this year's Cubs season.
yeah.
Maybe it's just the offense. Maybe it's just the pitching staff. Maybe it's the GM.
I got mine.
I'd say my fail is probably Keegan Thompson. Just didn't, just didn't keep up what he did in 2022.
He was not reelected.
No, there's still potential that he could maybe figure some things out this offseason with the pitching infrastructure, and come back and contribute next year. But it just wasn't a year that the Cubs envisioned him being out of the bullpen this year. So that's mine.
Got a fail?
Trey Mancini. Trey Mancini was a sub-replacement level player who started for this team on July 30th. When you miss the playoffs by 2 games or whatever it was, it's not his fault. I would throw the big 3 in there: Hosmer, Barnhart, Mancini. Just a huge waste of time.
Torrens.
And Torrance. They used almost a full player's worth of plate appearances on sub-replacement level guys, and it hurt them. That's the huge fail, I think, for this season.
A fail. Jamison Tyone.
After Luke just passed
Oh,
him?
Well, that's all right. I gave him a pass. You can give him a fail.
You gave him a pass?
I gave him a pass because of the way he finished in some big games that mattered late.
That's true, but it also
Trending up. I'm trying to keep the vibe positive.
I would lean more Cody on this.
But also, if he was
supposed to be
if he was
Stuckey
at
Nation
least
over
more
here.
consistent,
What I was gonna say.
consistently better all season, they're probably not collapsing in September because they probably at least there would have to be a handful of games in April and May that they won with him as the pitcher if he was just good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's insane how many different things you can point to this season, like thousands of little things that happened that.
We could literally do this every Thursday.
Yeah.
Who aced it, Cody? Who aced it for the Cubs this year?
Cody Bellinger.
Yeah.
Justin
the man.
Steele.
Yeah,
I would say Justin Steele.
I said pass, but I didn't. Whatever.
He aced
He
it.
aced it.
Yeah, and mostly obviously he had a not his best starts to finish the year, but for a guy who started the previous season in a kind of hybrid role to continue pitching at a league best level for so much of the season, putting that usage on his arm for the first time, like being that guy for the first time, coming in with those expectations, he nailed it. And I'm very excited for his future. I would say he aced it. He is an ace, and he aced it.
I'd go Julian Merriweather. I think
Good call.
he's not like a prospect by any means, right? Like he just didn't have a lot of major league time because of injuries or ineffectiveness, whatever it was. Cubs saw something in him, got him this offseason, brought him in, worked with him, and he turned into, for most of the season, like when Ross had 4 reliable relievers, he was absolutely one of them. And at the end of the season, when 2 of them got injured and a third one just lost his effectiveness, like Merriweather just continued to be, for the most part, that reliable guy that Ross needed. So I think he turned himself into a really big part of the bullpen. We know they're volatile, so we don't know what's going to happen next season, but he looks like a pretty solid, trustworthy reliever in that bullpen. And for a guy that just hadn't put it all together prior to that, I think that's why I pick he aced it. Is he really improved and produced and contributed and did everything the Cubs needed him to do out of that bullpen.
I like all those. I would say Bellinger just because he's the everyday player who was there all the time, and without him, this team, whatever the WAR stat would have said, I would say they would have been at least 7 or 8 games worse than they were without Cody Bellinger. At
Agreed.
least.
Agreed.
You know who is guaranteed acing it? Foco. Get fitted out with the best sports gear around. Hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. Aloha shirts, straw hats, polos, bags. Oh, man. They even have these overalls that we're told you can stick 13 Goose Islands in. You can put 13 beers in a pair of overalls. They also help us out with the set decorations. Always sweet. Great bobbleheads. For all non-presale items, go to foco.com. Click the link in description. And for those presale items, use the non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. And don't forget, this fall, this winter, Fubo TV, 140-plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news, streaming live TV from any device, whether that's your phone, your tablet. You can stream it right to your TV. Start watching immediately with a free trial. No contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching. 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. Watch your local teams while traveling. You can see the Big Ten. You can see the Bears tonight. NFL Network and Red Zone included. Watch all your favorite Chicago sports. Go to www.fubo.com/CHGO to sign up for the first month of Fubo Pro at 15% off. All right, we'll do more tomorrow. We're going to try to have some guests in here next week. Corey and Brendan, right, are going to be here tomorrow night?
Tomorrow
morning.
Same time.
Tomorrow morning.
I believe it at 1:20 it'll go live.
Oh, 1:20.
Yeah.
Right at 1:20.
But it won't be live.
You won't be doing it live for a chat.
No.
So for Barb, we will not be
Barb,
live
Barb
tomorrow.
you're
will
asking
ask-
There's
tomorrow,
a
it's not
show.
live.
We
you can
will not
watch.
be reading the chat because
Yes.
we can't see the future. But
Yeah.
we should be in the regular slot.
I was sure Brennan hasn't started developing that.
He
time
might,
travel.
and
AI.
we'll
Yeah.
be
AI Brendan could join the show.
Yeah, I think we'll be on Fridays going forward here. So Monday
Friday
through
one.
Friday, CHGO Cubs.
Friday 1:20 is always a vibe.
Always
Haven't
about-
mentioned this to you guys yet. Was going to.
Uh-oh.
Max Bain next Tuesday.
Next
Okay.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
old friend,
my guy,
recurring
old
guest.
old friend.
Number one guest of the show, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Much, yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of Ben Zobers.
No, I mean in terms of appearances.
It's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
He's
it'd
up
be like
there.
the
2 or
third or
3,
fourth
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
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 Well, I just feel I reached out to him, catch up with him. He spent the beginning of the year on the developmental list, and then went back to South Bend. And I'm still a believer. The guy's too nice of a dude to not believe in. So, yeah.
And he's a content machine.
yeah, he is
True.
content.
Oh,
Also,
I forgot. Remember he came into my show
Yeah.
on Spring Training, so it would be like the 4th time I think.
Oh,
he
yeah.
appeared on the show.
the OGs know.
Yep.
Also, Jamer Candelario just posted on Instagram like a half hour ago, just posting a bunch of pictures, like wearing Cubs stuff, but just said, going back to where it all started, grateful for another opportunity this season. Great team, great fans, and great vibes. Glory to God, 2023 in the books. So whether he's a Cub next year or not, I always liked him.
He's a nice guy.
J-Mo. Okay, thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Big Bears game tonight. Enjoy that. Until we
won't.
see
Enjoy that.
I'm ready
until
to be heard
Corey
again.
and Brendan on Friday, make sure you do one thing, and that is fly the W.